How's it going, Scrub Gamers? Welcome back to another video here at Scrub Games, and today we are back with another of our Understanding How to Build series, where we go over each of the leaders in a given set to help you understand how to build it to suit you and your playstyle. Now, for today, we're going over the last of the blue leaders from set 3 Twilight Republic, and that is Yoda. So if you are interested in building this lead, and you also want a little bit of help, then feel free to stay tuned. And also don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, because it keeps you updated with my videos as and when they drop. And also by clicking the notification bell, you will then get alerts to when my videos do drop, so you can watch them there and then, or at a time that suits you. So, without further ado, now that we've got all that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive in and help you understand how to build Yoda. So, starting off with the leader, we like to do that because it's a leader-based game. Most decks are built, well, not most, but all decks really, are built around the leader because that's who you are like building your deck around with the effects and stuff, and each will vary with different effects. And for Yoda, he is one of those late deploying leaders at 7 resources because that's what he deploys. When you control 7 or more resources, you can deploy him. So as early as turn 6, or if you play green and ramp, you can get him out a little bit quicker. He does come down with a solid stat line at 4 power, which is pretty good, and 9 health, which is hugely bulky, only beaten by leaders like Palpatine and Jabba, really. He also comes down with pretty nice traits. He's got the Force trait, which is excellent, especially in the heroic side. He's also got Jedi trait as well, because he's a Jedi, and he's also got the Republic trait as well, which is a new trait. Well, not a new trait, but a trait more benefited from set 3. So he is Yoda, Sensing Darkness, and he has a great effect because it allows you to help you filter your deck quickly when in the leader area, and a pretty nice when deployed effect when he does deploy. So when he's in the leader area, you can use his action, which is to tap him. So you need to tap him to trigger it. And if a unit left played this phase could be either yours or your opponent's, you get to draw a card. But that's not it. You then have to put a card from your hand after that, either on top or bottom of your deck. Now you're thinking that's not great because you're drawing a card but then putting something back afterwards. But the nice thing is you're drawing a brand new card, so you kind of get to see something new. You get to put the card that's most useless or not needed either on top or bottom of your deck. And having the flexibility to put them on the top or bottom of your deck means if it's cards you do want the next turn, or cards that you want to have interact with certain kind of cards that influence the top card of your deck, then you can put it there. Or if it's something you don't care and don't really want to see at all, or see maybe way later in the game, you can put it on the bottom of your deck. So pretty handy effect, and it allows you to every turn a unit leaves play. Remember, because either yours or your opponent's, you have to beat your one of your opponent's units, or if one of yours is taken out, then you can trigger this, which is fantastic. So you should hopefully be able to trigger this every turn, which is nice. And then when he deploys, as I said, he comes down at 7 resources with pretty good stats, and he also has a restore 2, so whenever he's swinging, he's healing 2 from your base, which is very nice. There's not many leaders have a restore. I think it's just Yoda and Rey, I think, and Rey has Restore 3, but this Restore 2 is still very nice. And when deployed, you can discard a card from the top of your deck. So when I first read this, I thought it was discard a card from your deck, any card, just look for your deck, discard a card, and then that's done. But no, it's discard the top card of your deck, even though it doesn't say the top card. And if you do, you can defeat an enemy non-leader unit that costs the same as or less than discard a card. Now this is a perfect effect that synergizes very well with Yoda's effect in the leader area, because as you know, he's got the action effect to put a card on top of your deck. So before you deploy, you can always trigger this effect when he's playing, and then put something high costing on top of your deck. So when you do deploy, you can discard that card from the top of your deck and then defeat anything that's a not leader that's got a cost less than it. So there's some really high costing cards in Yoda's own aspects, and also the other aspects you can pair with Yoda thanks to the base that can make it so you've got something big on your deck to make sure you take out something with ease, which is really nice. So it's a very nice powerful removal from Yoda, and also a very nice leader effect, making all together a great leader. And even though he's got a high costing, a high deploy, it's still not too bad because remember you've got aspects where you can ramp, aspects that, and being in blue, you can always heal, so you can survive long enough to deploy Yoda. So it's not the end of the world. Also, he has a showcase as well, like every leader in the set, even the starter deck ones. They've got a showcase essentially to showcase a different art of the leader. And Yoda's, I wouldn't say is that great. Like I much prefer the non-showcase art over to the showcase one of Yoda. Like Yoda's a great leader. I'm looking forward to building it because he's one of my go-to leaders from the third set to try out. But his showcase lead was lacking for me. But remember, it's all art, like art is always subjective, so it's all dependent on how you feel. Like you can either like, if you like it, that's fair enough. If you don't like it, that's fair enough. And there's like no one's opinion matters apart from your own. But for me, if it were to go for a showcase or normal, I would just go for the normal in hyperspace. That's it. Well, that's the leader. So next part, we go on to the next bit, and that is the other thing that you do have with your leader to kind of make the aspects for your deck, and that is the base that accompanies the leader. So remember, this game, what is a leader-based game? You have a base as well to protect. That is how you kind of finish the game, because the only way to win in this game is to reduce the opponent's base opponent's base's health to 0. And there's two types of bases in this game. There are rare bases and common bases. Now, rare bases are bases with less health than a common base, but to compensate for that, they have an effect on them. Could be an epic action you can play once a game. Once a game. Or it could be a permanent effect that's in play, or an effect that triggers when a certain action happens. And for the common bases, they're just straight up 30 health bases, and that's it. They're just 30 health bases with no effect, and they've got different places and locations. The only difference between them is just the art on them, because currently there's nothing from set 3 that interacts with base having a specific location. So at the moment, they're just 30 health bases, and you pick which one you prefer the art of. So we'll have a look into these bases, see what the options are, because as of set 3, there are now 8 rare bases, because we got 4 in the first set. So in the first set, we got the top row there, the 4, 1 in each aspect. We didn't get any in set 2, which was pretty nice because it meant that your rare slot wasn't replaced by a rare base, which you can only really run one of. And then in set 3, we got some more rare bases, which is the bottom row there, which is slightly different. So the top row, they're all bases that have an epic action, meaning you have to take an action to do it, and it's an action you can use once a game. And they vary between them. They all have the same amount of health, be it 25 health, and the actions are slightly different and don't interact with leaders. So you got Security Complex for the blue one, being give a non-leader unit an axe shield for the turn. So that's pretty nice, giving a shield to a non-leader unit. You got Energy Conversion Lamp, probably the most used out of the rare bases from set 1. And its epic action is to play a unit that costs 6 or less, still paying the cost for the card, don't play it for free. Then give it Ambush for this phase, meaning you can attack the same turn it's played. Pretty nice there. You've got Tarkin Town being one that allows you to deal 3 damage to a damaged non-leader unit, so you can kind of finish off something that you were just short of damaging and taking out. And then you've got Jealousy, which allows you to give a non-leader unit -4 power for this phase, so weakening something so you can take out easier, or stop it from doing heavy damage. So these are pretty nice rare bases. All really see play. Maybe the yellow one less than the rest, and the green one more prominent than the others. But then with set 3, we got 4 new ones, 1 in each aspect again. And these kind of vary because you got 2 that have a permanent effect that's always in play, and you got the other 2 have an effect that trigger when you do a certain action, being deploying a leader. So the ones that have the permanent effects are Pal City, the blue one, and Petronaki Arena, being the yellow one. They both have 26 health, so the highest of the rare bases, and have an effect that is always live. And they are, each leader you control gains a certain stat boost. So the blue one gives your leader an extra 1 health, while Petronaki Arena gives your leader an extra 1 power. So these are pretty nice, but these new rare bases all look to mainly be used for the Twin Suns format. We can still use them in competitive play, it just then depends on what you prefer. Now with the with the green and red one, they are the ones that trigger when you deploy your leader, and they have slightly less health than the other 2 in the set, but still less health than a common base. So you've got Droid Manufactory being the green one, has the lowest health in the game, being 24, but its effect is when you deploy a leader, you create 2 Battle Droid tokens. Now this is pretty handy for the 2 new skills in the set, because there are 2 new skills. The Dark Side has Exploit, you can defeat any number of units you control. Well, yeah, you can defeat units you control up to the exploit number. So, and then the card you play costs 2 less for each card you exploit. So if you got exploit 2, you can defeat up to 2 units you control. And then if you do the next card you play, it costs 2 less for each one. So if you exploit 2, it costs 4 less. So that's pretty nice. And it also helps out for the good side as well, being the coordinate skill. Coordinate is a skill on the light side of the cards, which needs 3 or more units in play to trigger that effect it's attached to. So if you have the unit in play that has coordinate and 2 other units with it, it can trigger its coordinate skill, while the skill has coordinates attached to. So this is a handy one for both the dark and light side of the the force and the game. But then it does have a low health, but then it's up to you if you feel that's going to be useful if that's a useful effect that you're sacrificing the health for. And the last we have the red one, being Shadow Collector Camp, has the same health as the original bases, being 25, but its effect is when you deploy a leader, you draw a card. Now, card drawing isn't amazing in this game, not massive, but it is pretty good, but it depends if that's going to be useful compared to the other effects that are on offer. Now, if you feel that none of these are on offer, then it's probably best that you go for a 30 health base, common base. And like I said, there is no difference between them. They're all 30 health base with no effect, and they just have different locations, names, and arts. So essentially, if you go for a vanilla base, you're literally just picking the one you like the look of in each aspect, and then using that. So these are probably my favorite preferred arts for the vanilla bases in the set currently, and normally ones I pick for each aspect when it comes to playing them. So that's the basic out of the way. Now next thing we want to go is the aspects. And these are the 6 aspects you have in the game. So there are the 4 color ones, being Vigilance for blue, green for command, red for aggression, and yellow for cunning, which are the color aspects on almost all the cards, but also on every single leader and every single base. Every base is one of these aspects to correspond with that color. And then what some cards do have as well, and also all your leaders have, is one of the other 2 aspects, being either the villainy aspect, being more shown of the dark side of the villainy, the dark side of the characters, and then you got heroism being the white aspect, showing the good side or the light side of the characters. Now each of these aspects has a kind of focus, because there must be a reason for why there's different aspects, and they all kind of do different things. They do different things in terms of how they want to play, and I'm going to quickly go over kind of what each aspect wants to kind of do, because they are different. Now, Vigilance is one that is on Yoda, so this is one that you have access to from Yoda, and that is the ability to play defensively with basically being able to heal damage, remove dangerous units from play, and protect your base from enemy attacks. And this is an asset that's perfect for players who like a patient play style that can take on almost anything that's thrown at you. So this is what Yoda's going to come in with, and if you like that kind of play style, then this is perfect for you. Then you got the next one being green command. This is more of a ramp aspect, because it allows you to accelerate your resources and call upon lots of units or strengthen the units you have in play. And this is an aspect of choice for players who want to overwhelm their opponents with a massive war presence. So if you want to ramp so you can play out more things or bigger things quickly, then this is good for you. And also this is a nice one. You could probably go with Yoda to help kind of get him out earlier by ramping up the resources, so you can drop him earlier than you would normally be able to. Next, you have the red one being aggression, and kind of in the name of kind of how it is, it's a very aggressive playstyle, but not being aggressive. It can be aggressive as when in basically being aggro, or aggressive in throwing damage out willy-nilly. Because this one is one that wants to attack with maximum efficiency and dish out lots of damage, and the aspect is a perfect fit for anyone who likes a fast-paced game with a fiery playstyle that breaks through opponents' defenses and just go for victory at any cost. So this is a perfect one for those who like the aggro playstyle or just like throwing out damage on the board. Next, we come to the last of the colored ones, being Cunning, the yellow one, and this is one that's somewhat like a jack of all trades kind of aspect, because it wants to adapt to any situation on the fly with powerful immediate effects and have lots of tools for tracking your opponent's game plan. And this is a perfect aspect for any players who prefer to respond quickly to threats and have an answer for anything almost that your opponent throws at you. So you like that jack of all trades kind of focus, then Cunning is a perfect one for you to pick. And then comes to the last 2. So these are the villainy and heroism ones. So you've got villainy, which is which are cards that feature the antagonist of Star Wars series, and you've got heroism, which feature the protagonists of the Star Wars series. So you've got the ones in heroism that fight for peace and justice, and you've got the villainy ones who want ultimate power. Now these are aspects that are perfect for players to either support each other with the light side, or wield powerful destructive effects with the dark side. And they are often paired with other aspects on the card as well. Like we see with the leader, it is both heroic and vigilance, meaning it's got basically the good side or bad side plus one of the color ones. So these are also cards that also do have cards that adjust those aspects. They're not always attached to one of the other 4, but they can have cards that are just heroism and villainy. And there are some cards that have no aspect, and those are just grey cards that can be played no matter what. Now, there are 4 different combinations you can have with your leader, because remember, since you have a leader and a base, the leader provides 2 aspects, being either villainy and heroism, and then one of the other color ones, and then the base provides another color one, giving you 4 different aspect combinations. And those are, with Yoda, these 4 here. So if you go for a blue base with Yoda, you go double blue. If you have a green base with Yoda, you have blue-green. If you have a red base, blue-red, and if you have a yellow base, blue-yellow. Now, these all provide certain kind of benefits for Yoda and different kind of playstyles and different options, and we'll go over that in a bit. But with these aspect combinations, while these are the aspects you get provided while having a leader at a base, there's something called the aspect penalty. And this is something that occurs on the game because you can put any cards you want in your deck and play any cards, but when it comes to actually playing the cards physically, then there's something called the aspect penalty that will occur. And then what the aspect penalty is if you want to play a card, if the aspects on the card you want to play do not match what's on your leader or base, then you have to pay an extra 2 per resource that doesn't match. So we've got an example here to kind of go over and make it easy in a little table. I know this is something I didn't have showing in the first 2 sets of this series. So I've added in to kind of make it better, because it's sometimes better to visualize it than to basically just be told it. So for this example, we've got Yoda with the green base to Poker City. So with this leader and base combination, we've got access to the aspects we have are white, blue, and green. So with this aspect combination, if you wanted to play a card that shares any of those aspects or any combination of those aspects, like say for example, if you want to play a card that's blue, green, or white, or that is a combination of white and blue and white and green, you just don't no additional cost. You just play it for what its printed cost is. But now, if you wanted to play a card that has one of the aspects on the card that doesn't match what's on your this combination, so in this example, if it was a card that had a red, yellow, or black aspect, or one that matches like white, blue, or green, but then the other aspect is one of those other aspects that doesn't match, then you have to pay an extra 2 additional resources for each aspect that doesn't match. So if you had, like I said, if you had a red, yellow, or black aspect on the card you want to play, and just one of those, but the other aspect, if there is any match, then you'd have to pay an extra 2 on top. So a 3 cost would then cost a 5 cost. But then also the same goes for the double aspects, because any aspect only provides one of that aspect. So each of those aspects on Yoda and the base only provide one, so you got one of each of them. So in this case, with this combination, you want to play a double blue or double green card. Because you have the either blue or green aspect being covered by either the base or the leader, you have that covered, but the second one isn't covered because you have a second one on the base or lead. So that means if you want to play a double blue or double green card with this leader base combo, then you'd have to pay an extra 2 on top to cover that second blue or green aspect. Now, if you wanted to play a card that had neither of the aspects, like 2 aspects on it, but neither of them are covered by the leader base, like in this example, you want to play a black-red card, a black-yellow card, or a double red or double yellow card, then because neither of them match, you have to pay an additional 4 on top, 2 for each aspect, which means a card that would normally cost 3 would now cost 7 because you got that extra 4 on top. So hopefully that helps explain about the aspect penalty, how it kind of works. But do note that it isn't always like a thing to not play a card just because it incurred the aspect penalty. There are still cards that are actually that powerful that people and players will still want to play the card in the deck. Like a good example is Vigilance. It's an double blue event that has an option four options, and you can play any 2 of them. And unless you're playing double blue, it's going to cost 6 instead of 4 because you have to incur that extra aspect penalty due to having the second blue and not playing it. But people will still play a basically say a blue something else that's not blue, like not a double blue deck, and still have Vigilance in because the card's just that good. It's worth paying that extra 2 on top for it. So do note that aspect penalty isn't always a bad thing. People will still play cards even if it won't be incurred on them. And that brings us to the last bit before we go over the different aspect options, and that is the ratios. So in this game, like with other games, you have a certain amount of cards you could have in a deck, and in this game, the maximum amount of cards you can have in a deck, maximum copies of a card you can have in a deck are 3. So you can either have 3, 2, or 1 copies of a card, and I'm going to go over to basically help you understand why you would want 3, 2, or 1 copies of any given card, and some examples to go with them. So for example, 3 copies of a card. So this is the ratio to help maximize the likelihood that the desired card will be in your hand when needed. So there's examples of this being cards you want to play on the first turn, or cards you want to see multiple copies of over the course of the game. Now a good example here is Your Only Hope, because this is a card that is really, really cool, really, really strong, but it has a difficult time of being set up. Thanks to Yoda's leader side ability, it's very easy to set up your cards for Your Only Hope, because you got the option of Yoda to put on top of your deck, so you can use it, because it's a 3-cost event that allows you to look at the top card of your deck, and you can play it, and it costs 5 less than its actual cost. And if your base has 5 or less damage remaining on it, or health remaining on it, then you can play it for free instead. So this is a very powerful card with Yoda, and one of the benefits of running Yoda. and this is one you would want to play 3 copies of because it's a way to play out cards cheaper than actually are, thanks to Leader's ability being a good combo with it. So hopefully that makes sense for 3 copies. Now for 2 copies of card, this is usually a ratio for cards that aren't great to draw early in the game, but you still want to go through multiple copies over the course of the game. And examples of this are like boss cards, like big boss monsters, or high costing cards. Now a good example I've put in every single of these videos because it's the easiest one to make sense of is Rival's Fall. Now in the game there are some events that allow you to instantly defeat units. Now most of the time they have a restriction on them, and the lower the cost, the bigger the restriction. And some of them require like a certain amount of health to be able to defeat a unit, or they can defeat a unit, but it's got to be a non-leader unit, things like that. But Rival's Fault is one of those ones that is a high costing card at 6, like you see on the screen, but it can defeat any unit. So it's very high costing, but a very powerful effect, can defeat any unit, even leader units. So this might be one that you want in your deck so you can take out your opponent's leader with ease, because it's very hard to do that outside of just damage in some cases. So you might want to have some of these, but you don't want to have them too early. But if you've got 2 copies of the game in the deck, then hopefully you won't draw it too early, but you draw it when you need to, so you can use it at that time. So that's 2 copies of card. And then lastly, we have the 1 copy of a card. Now this is usually the ratio for cards that are added to a deck specifically in order to counter a specific action. So examples being the card Restock added to decks to help counter hard control decks. So this is one that, like I said, is put in the counter hard control decks because hard control decks are decks that just want to basically control the game and basically just take control and not let your opponent take back control or be able to do anything really. And because they're just focusing on controlling the game, they're not really trying to push for damage. And in this game, the only way you can win is by dealing enough damage to your opponent so it equals the health on their base. So 30 if you're going to play in a skillless, within the base. And at the end, when you come to a point where you can't draw any more cards, so you've decked yourself out, you still keep playing, but anytime you would have to draw during your regroup phase, you would take 3 damage for every card you can't draw. So you draw 2 cards at the end of the regroup phase in this game. So if you can't draw 1, you take 3 damage. If you can't draw both of them, it's 6 damage. And hard control decks normally rely on that way to kind of win the game by forcing you to not be able to draw and then deal damage through that way. But Restock is a really nice card because it's a 1-cost event that allows you to put up to 4 cards in your discard pile back on the bottom of your deck in a random order. And with how the game works, you can put Restock itself back as one of those 4 cards, so you keep looping it over and over again to kind of prevent the damage, meaning then hard control decks will have to find a different way to kind of push the damage while you keep preventing yourself from decking out and taking that damage, will also be able to put back cards that you want to reuse to kind of help yourself in that situation. So hopefully that makes sense with when you would want to have 3 copies, 2 copies, or 1 copy of a card. And now we're going to go to the aspect combinations. First off with the aspect combos, I like to start off with the double aspect because this is one that is a lot easier and is one that every leader can employ now. But back when we had set 1, with the reduced card pool of being just 1 set, though going double aspect was only something that one leader in each aspect could actually do decently at the very least. Because we only had 3 double aspect cards in set 1, so it meant that you only had access to blue and then 3, and you're losing a whole different aspect for just 3 cards. But now with 3 sets in, we now have 9 double aspect cards for each aspect, and then a lot more of their actual aspect in terms of like single aspect cards. So if you're on double aspect, this is one that could be pretty good for Yoda because there are some pretty nice blue cards, a lot more options nowadays for with 3 sets, and you've got some pretty powerful effects here. Now, from the first set, you had Bendu, Protector, and Vigilance being cards you can, 2 cards, being Bendu and Protector, being able to give you Sentinel, either Bendu being a Sentinel himself and allowing you to play out cards at reduced cost, Protector being an upgrade you can put on units to give them Sentinel while giving a power boost, and then Vigilance being a very nice card that every aspect has, being a 4-cost event, double aspect, and gives you 4 options that you can pick any 2 of and implement. Now, Vigilance is pretty nice and gives you many options like healing, milling out, removal, or shielding, so it's a very good one and one of the best ones out of those 4. Then with set 2, we got 3 new ones. We've got some nice ones there, being Sugi, being a very solid costed unit that you can smuggle in and also can gain Sentinel when you put on upgrades to units. Second Chance being just how the name suggests, you can put on a non-leader unit, and then when it's defeated, you can kind of play it back to give it a second chance of life in the game. And then you got Instant Repairs, being a nice one, allow you to heal 8 damage in total from any number of units on the board, and at a low cost of 2, which is pretty nice. So the first two sets had some pretty nice double aspect cards, but when it came to set 3, that's where we kind of let down for the Vigilance side of double aspects. Because the cards we got were Finn, Duchess Champion, and Equalize, which are not particularly great. Finn's pretty decent for his cost in terms of stats, but when it comes to effect, it's not that impressive because he has to complete an attack, means you have to attack and survive, and then choose a unique unit, just a unique unit, which while there are a lot of, you're not always going to have a unique unit, and then for that turn, it takes 1 less damage if it would take damage. So not amazing, good, decent stats for its cost, but not the best in effect. Then we've got Duchess's Champion being a 4-cost 1/8, which is not great stats, not a lot of power, but a lot of bulk, but it doesn't have Sentinel unless your opponent has 3 or more units. So it means your opponent can always play around this by only having 2 units on the board at a time, meaning it will go into Sentinel, and then it's not threatening with 1 power, and you don't have to worry about it because it's not really threatening or doing anything, so it's not the greatest card. And then we have Equalize. Now this is a 3-cost event that allows you to give a unit -2/2 to its stats, so reduces power and health by 2. Then if you control less units than your opponent, you can give another different unit -2/2 as well. Now if this would be incorporated on 1 unit, giving it -4/4 in total, that would be pretty nice. But outside that, it's not great because the base effects of what this card does is done better in a card called Make an Opening, which is also a 3-cost event in whose aspects just require 1 Vigilance aspect. Does the same thing giving any unit -2/2 for the phase, but also heals your base for 2. Now, healing base for 2, rather than having the slight chance of being able to minus another unit by 2/2, which might even not make that much of a difference, is a lot better than just basically playing this card and not needing to run double aspect for it as well. So unfortunately, while we got some really good double aspect cards in set 1 and 2, the set 3 ones are very lackluster to say the least. But Yoda can make very good use of the double aspect stuff because it still has access to all the blue cards and heroic cards as well to go for a nice kind of like control leader in the heroic side. So if you want to go for double blue, this is a good option for Yoda. Now, before we get into the other aspect combinations, I do want to go over what aspects what cards Yoda has access thanks to his own aspects, not including what the base provides you as well. And here on the heroic side, like with Vigilance, it's more the heroic side and dark side that have the best kind of units, whereas it's more the events and stuff and upgrades that are better in the non-heroics and dark sides of the aspect. Now for the heroic side, you got some pretty nice units, you got some very cool ones, you got some early turn ones like Yoda and Kanan Jarrus being very nice ones that can allow you to heal, plus also gain some benefits like Kanan doing a slight bit of mill and Yoda doing healing on your base as well. And also when he is defeated, draws you a card, so it kind of replaces himself. Then you got some good big units, being like Luke and Redemption, which with Yoda and its effects plus Your Mighty Hope can play this out a little bit cheaper, and they're really nice ones because they both also heal. They can heal your base as well, and Luke acting like some solid removal, while Redemption also is like a Sentinel, basically blocking the path for space units to get to your base or other units. Now also you do have the rare bases as well you can incorporate with Yoda if you want to go for double blue. You got Security Complex and Pal City. So Pal City makes Yoda a 4/10, which is pretty nice. Might not be worth the reduced health, but remember with blue being like the more healing aspect, with things like restore and be able to heal your base, you can mitigate the low health by constantly healing it, basically to get rid of that like negative side. And then you got Security Complex be a nice one where you can just instantly give a shield, while using actually you can give a shield to one of your non-leader units, like protecting things like Luke Redemption and stuff like that from being damaged once it's got a shield. Now, there also is some good upgrades and events as well for the heroic side. You've got Shadow Lightsaber being a very nice one, where it's a 3-cost upgrade. It gives a free boost to a unit, which is very good, very strong for its cost. And also, if the unit's a force unit, it allows the defender when it attacks, the unit when it attacks, to give the unit is attacking into -2/2 to its stats, giving it 2 less power to hit back, a little bit weaker, and less health so you can take it out a little bit easier as well. So very good upgrade and a massive one. And even since it's a force unit and Yoda is a force unit, you can chuck this on the leader to turn its stats from being a 4/9 to a 7/12, which is huge for that the little green buddy. Now for the events, you got some pretty nice ones, and also once again events that have benefits if you have a force unit. So you got Mystic Reflection and Forces with me here, which have some good effects, but then have them boosted if you feature a force unit. Like Mystic Reflection giving a unit -2 power for the phase, but if you have a force unit, it also gives it -2 health as well. And then the Forces with me, which usually just on its own will allow you to give a friendly unit 2 experience and now to attack that same turn, or give it 2 experience and then attack straight away. But if you control a force unit, it does that, plus gives it a shield as well. So you could either give it, with a force unit, you can give it 2 experience, a shield, and have it attack. I mean, you can either go straight to your base and have it protected so your opponent can't really damage it, or have it swing into your opponent's unit even stronger and then not take any damage back because you'll lose the shield instead. And then you got Hello there being a nice little control card where it's a free cost event that allows you to give a unit that ended play this phase -4/4. So making it that when your opponent plays cards, you weaken them to the point where they just get defeated, or are a lot weaker, so it's easier to take them out and they do less of a threat back when you attack into them. So those are the heroic cards you can get for Vigilance. And in the non-heroic side, you still got some pretty nice cards. Like you got some pretty cool units, like you've got Guardian Wolves being one of the few, or only, one of the few units that are force units, but not in Heroism. You got that, and plus add Monday. And it's a pretty nice one, and also can play upgrades on it for 1 less when you do, for the first one that each phase. You also got some pretty mid, well, no, not pretty mid, but some good cards for the mid game from Vigilance, like Survivor's Gauntlet and that Monday. Monday, incorporating that incorporate skill, coordinate skill, which requires to have 2 other units on play with him to trigger his effect, which allows you to draw 2 cards if your opponent plays a second card that phase. And Survivor's Gauntlet allowing you to mess with upgrades by moving around either on your opponent's or your side of the board. Then you have the Zillow Beast being a card that can use pretty well with Yoda, being either a card you can play out, which is pretty cool, and 9 cost 10/10 is pretty strong, or put on top of your deck so you can use it with Yoda's when deployed effect to take out anything that's 9 costs or less. That's a non-leader. It also has a nice effect that when it's played, minus all your opponent's ground units by 5 power for the turn, so make it more weaker so you have to worry about them attacking to your base or doing much damage, while also taking out your opponent's units and not worrying about much retaliation from them. And it also will always heal 5 damage in the phase every turn. You also got some good upgrades in Foresight and Entrench, being nice ones, get you a nice stat boost. Foresight getting an extra 2 health, while Entrench giving a whopping 3 for 2. But at the downside of making an attached unit not be able to attack bases, which could be a good thing for both you or a bad thing for your opponent. So you can either put on yours to help your units be bigger so they can control your opponent's board, or put on your opponent's units when that arena you have it on is empty, because then it has it can't attack bases. Then we have Foresight, which allows you to get some nice synergy with Yoda, allowing you to when the regroup phase starts, allow you to name a card that's on the top of your deck, and if the reveal card, top card is the card you named, you can draw it. So it means with Yoda you can put a card when it's uses effect to put something on top of your deck, and then have Foresight on a unit, and then be able to claim that card back. So you're technically mitigating the fact that you're just essentially drawing an extra card every turn with Yoda, which is nice. And then one of the other things is Vigilance has a lot of instant defeat cards, like cards that instantly just defeat a unit. And while we've seen Rivals Fall being like the most powerful of them, there are some other ones like Take Down and Fell the Dragon, being very nice low cost ones that have a effect to take out a unit. And like I said, very lower the cost, the more restriction it is. And with Take Down, it can defeat any unit as long as it's got 5 or less remaining HP. So this is one that allows you to even hit leaders, but the restriction is the amount of HP it needs to have is 5 or less. So if it's outside the range, you can always attack into it or do damage to it. They put in that range and take out a Vic Takedown, or just take out something that's already within that range. Then you have Fell the Dragon. This allows you to take out any non-leader unit, so specifically a non-leader unit that has 5 or more power. So mostly for the big things that are threats and stuff that are going to do a lot of damage, take them out with Fell the Dragon. So that is all the good stuff you get from Vigilance. Now we're going to have a look at each of the different aspects you can get outside of double aspect by having your base equipped with Yoda. So first up we have Command. This is a pretty nice one you can have with Yoda, because Command gives you a lot of good cards you can have for like the top end. Some like big cards you can bring out, and some pretty nice ones in both the heroic side and the normal side. And also remember, for the rare bases for Command, you have access to Entry Conversion Lab and Droid Manufactory. Now, while Entry Conversion is a pretty nice one, because you can ambush things out, it's pretty cool. The Droid Manufactory isn't going to be the best one unless you require units for things like Coordinate. And now there are some units like we've got Leia Secura and stuff like that, but it gives you a very low health base, but then that's kind of mitigated with the fact that Blue and even Command have some nice healing for your base. And since Yoda also heals damage from your base when he's deployed and swinging, it can be pretty nice to put in these bases and then not worry about the downside being the lower health. But you also have some pretty nice units in there. Like you've got some lower cost units like Tactical Republic Tactical Officer, Sundari Peacekeeper, and Bright Hope being very low cost units that can come out and provide some nice things. Like Tactical Officer being a way to attack with a unit that's a Republic, attack Republic unit, and have an extra 2 power on attack. So make use of that Republic trait, which Yoda is also, so Yoda can benefit from that. Sundari Peacekeeper being a nice one that, while it has low power, it has a good amount of health for its cost and has Raid 2 and Restore 2. So when it swings for an extra 2 power and also heals 2 from your base when it does. And then Bright Hope, being able to put your Sentinel in your space arena with pretty decent bulk and some good power. That can also draw you some more cards by bouncing back a ground unit back to your hand. And then also putting a Sentinel in space. Then you've got the higher costing cards like Alea Secura and Home 1 being nice bigger units that are pretty nice. Like Alea Secura being pretty good stat at a 5 cost, 6/5. Pretty nice stats there. And does require coordinates, as it does require to have 2 other units on board to trigger her effect, which is on attack, prevent all damage that would be dealt to her by that attack. So you can attack it something and take no damage back, which is pretty strong. And you got Home 1 allowing you to get like some more units out, like what go a bit wide on the board. By when it's played, you can play a heroic unit from your discard, and it costs 3 less. You still have to pay the cost of the card, but it costs 3 less than its normal cost. So if it costs 3 or less, it's played for free. And if it's higher than that, you have to pay a few more resources to be able to bring it out. And also gives all your units Restore 1, so when they attack, they're healing 1, so it makes like Yoda heal for more when it swings, and itself has Restore 4. Restore 2. So when it's swinging, like everything white's on the board is swinging and healing damage from your base, which is pretty nice. You have access to some upgrades as well, like Inspire Mentor, a 2-cost upgrade that gives 1/1 to stats, and allows the unit when it attacks or when it's defeated, give an experience token to a different unit. So you can put this on Yoda, increase it from a 4/9 to a 5/10, and make it so when it swings, it's healing 2 from your base, and also giving something else on your board extra experience token, which is pretty cool. And then you got some pretty nice events in it as well. So you got Spark of Hope being like the heroic side's ramp in an event. It's a lot more kind of restrictive and technical, situational than it is for the everyone's like resupply and stuff like that. But it's easy enough to pull off, and normally you probably pull it off thanks to Yoda's effect as well, because it's whenever you could choose a unit in your discard pile, and if it was defeated this phase, you can resource it, which is pretty cool. And it's a low costing, but it just you just need a unit on board, and for it to be defeated that same phase for you to trigger this to ramp up. But it's an option, and you got U Reinforcement being a way to play out cards from top of your deck, and either a lot or just one big one, because it allows you for 7. So let's look at the top 10 cards of your deck. Play up to 3 units with a combined cost of 7 or less, and play them out for free from those top 10. So you can either get one big 7 or less unit, or multiple units like a 1 cost, 2 cost, and then a 4 cost, or any variation of that. So pretty nice cards there. And as well as that, we have our Just Command cards. And Command does pretty nice ones, and some pretty good cards here. Like you have some low cost cards in like Colonel Yularen, Cobvamp, and 501st Liberator. These are nice cards. Like Colonel Yularen lets you heal your base for every heroic or every command unit you play, including itself. Cobvamp allows you to keep units on board, but when it's defeated, look at the top 10. Discard any units 2 cost or less, and then for that phase, play out for free from your discard pile. So keep units on board to keep your board present. It's good for coordinate. And then you got 501st Liberator, which is when it's played, if you control another Republic unit, you can heal 3 damage to your base. And considering Yoda is one of those, you can play it out. And if you do use the then play out all the units, or play out units from the U Reinforcement, you can out 2 of these in a 1-drop, and then because you've got Republic units on, because 2 of them would be 2 Republic units, you can then heal 6 from your base, which is pretty cool, as well as establishing 2 free cost free frees on board. And then you've got Reinforcement Walker. Now this is one of the big units for Command. Very nice one as well, because it's high costing but good statted. And when it's played or when it attacks, either lets you look at top card of your deck and either add it to your hand, so you add more cards and more options, or discard it to heal 3 from your base. So you either get healing by losing top card of your deck, or add it to your hand to get more options. And then along with that, you've got some good upgrades and events. Like you've got General's Blade being a very nice upgrade, and just like we saw with Jedi's Lightsaber, it's a free cost, free boost, so very good cost for stats. And if the unit is a Jedi, which once again your leader Yoda is, when it attacks, you can play the next card you will play, the next unit you play this phase costs 1 less, so you can play out bigger things earlier or more things out in a turn, and also boost Yoda from a 4/9 to a 7/12. You also got some nice events, like you got Resupply being one of the the basic general ramp cards you always put in any green deck, as long as it's focused on ramping and not anything else. Timely Invention allow you to get some ambush, like basically ELC in an event. So 1 cost, now you place it with ambush, but you still got to pay the cost, and also could be smuggled out. And another card that can be smuggled out could be handy is Commission. This is a 1 cost event, allows you to look at the top 10 cards of your deck and find either a Bounty Hunter, which isn't many in green, or even the light side of any color, but is an option. Also an item, which could be things like your lightsabers, like General's Blade or Gel Lightsaber, or a transport card, which could be some vehicles as well. So pretty handy, pretty nice card. You can help to search out for certain things, like if you're trying to find an upgrade to chuck on Yoda, this could be a good card to find it. And you can even smuggle it out later as well to kind of use it to make sure when Yoda's deployed, you can find those sabers to chuck on him. So that is Command. So if you focus on a ramp strategy and want to try and get out Yoda early and have some pretty nice tools and like a good bit, like a lot of healing with the combined aspects, Command could be the one for you to go with Yoda. Next we have Aggression. So this is one that, like we saw, and like we've kind of gone over, it's a very aggressive strategy, throwing out damage, or even just basically just go and be aggressive to your opponent to take him out as early as possible. The bases you have in the terms of rare you have, or options, are Target Town and Shadow Collector Camp. These are both 25 health base. Remember, within that Yoda is blue, you got a nice bit of restore in there and like healing to kind of mitigate that downside of the lower health. But they have nice actions, so Target Town allows you to do 3 damage to a unit, damage non-leader unit. So if you try to take something out and you're just short, Target Town can help you out finish it off. Or Shadow Collector Camp can help you draw a card when you're deployed, so you not only just draw a card, but you also get the when deployed effect. So you got to time that kind of right, which one you're going to trigger first, but they both trigger at the same time, so you can choose. So you can either draw the card and then bank on what card after, or use if you use Yoda's effect, know what you're milling by milling the first card first, then drawing after. He also has some pretty nice cards. Like the top row, we've got like more low-costed cards with strong effects, like Red 3, Cassian Andor, Stella Guerrera, and K2SO. Often pretty nice effects, like Red 3, giving your heroic units Raid 1 what's on board. Cassian being a nice one to be able to smuggle out later in the turn, and then come in ready when it's smuggled. Stella Guerrera being able to when played or when defeated, look at the top 8 cards by dealing 2 damage to your base and look for a tactic. And nice thing about that is that all the removal events in blue are tactics. So things like Rivals Fall, Takedown, and Fellow Dragon will be found by Stella, and it's a good combination with Yoda. Well, blue and red, her with blue as the other aspect are a great combination. And you got K2 also be a nice one, where it's got the options when it's defeated, as well as having solid stats for its cost. Being either doing more damage to your opponent's base at 3 damage, or making your opponent discard a card to have a bit of hand control. And when we come to the later parts of the game, you've got nice units like Anakin and Mace Windu. Both are Force Jedi and Republic units, so getting the benefits of those aspects in this set. Anakin being a solid 5 cost 6/6, pretty good stats, and with coordinates with 2 other units on board. When he attacks, he can draw your card to gain you more cards and more options. And Mace Windu having ambush, same stats as Vader, and also when he defeats a unit, restand him so you ready him so you can attack again, either into another unit or to your opponent's base afterwards. A nice way to kind of focus on clearing your opponent's board, which is pretty cool. You also got some good events as well in Aggression, on the heroic side anyway. You got Carablast, allowing you to make a friendly unit, deals damage equal to an enemy unit equal to the damage that's taken, +1. So if you're taking a lot of damage, you can do a lot of damage +1 to a unit, potentially take something out. Great when combined with Redemption. And you got 4 calls in, be a way to kind of deal more damage to your opponent's base by doing up to 4, potentially 4 damage, by looking at the top 4 cards on top of your deck and doing 1 for every heroic unit, and then rearranging how you want by discarding some or keeping some on top of your deck. So that's all the heroic stuff you got in Aggression. Now for the non-heroic stuff, you got some pretty nice things too. Like you got some nice early turn units like Wolf makes Mayfield and a Disabling Fangfire. So Wolf is a nice one that prevents healing from bases, both yours and your opponent. So if you're trying to go aggressive with your opponent and they are trying to heal, you can kind of shut that down with Wolf. You got Migs is a nice one where while it's on board, if when a player, either you or your opponent, have to discard a card from hand, you can deal 2 damage to a unit on board or a base. So that's pretty cool. And then you got Saving Fangfire, which allows you to, when played, take out any upgrade on a unit. It could be a shield, an upgrade that's been played, or even an experience token. Pretty nice there. Then you got the higher costing cards. You got Kit Fisto and Crate Dragon being nice examples. Kit Fisto being a 6 cost 7/6, pretty good stats, with Saboteur so you can ignore Sentinels to defeat shields when it attacks a unit. And then with Coordinate, it can swing and deal 3 damage to a ground unit. Pretty nice. Also, is a Force Republic and Jedi unit. Then you got Crate Dragon, so the big top end, a very nice one to go well with Yoda as well. So it's a nice one to use with Yoda's effect. And it's just like Zilla Beast, it's a solid 9-10-10 unit. It has Overwhelm, so it does piercing damage for your units, and when your opponent plays a card while you got it on your board, you either deal damage equal to the cost of that card to the base or ground unit every time they play a card, which is pretty nice. Then it comes to the good events in Regression as well. So you got Force Throw being a nice never benefit to having a Force unit, and remember your leader being a Force unit is a good way to have it on board. And Force Throw is a nice one to make you choose a player, normally your opponent, and make a discard a card. But if you control a Force unit, you then also get to deal damage to a unit equal to the cost of the card that was discarded by this effect. So not only can you just make your opponent discard a card, then deal damage equal to the cost of it if you got Jedi, but you can also discard a card from your hand, and since whoever has discard chooses what they discard, you can use this to discard a card from your hand, like a high costing card, and then be able to deal a certain amount of damage guaranteed to one of your opponent's units, maybe like taking out a leader as soon as deploy. They go Force Throw, choose your Crate Dragon, discard it, 9 damage to a leader. Easy peasy. And then you got some other nice events like Pillage and Bombing Run. Pillage making a player discard 2 cards from hand, so a nice bit of hand control. And then Bombing Run making you choose a arena, so be it ground or space, and deal 3 damage to every unit in that place, be able to like potentially wipe out an entire arena. And remember, it hits both yours and your opponent's units. So that's Aggression. So this is another way you can play Yoda pretty well. And with Force Throw is normally like the main push for it, and the heroic units as well make for a good combination, especially with Yoda as well. Then that brings us to the last of the aspects that you can get with in the combination with Yoda, and that is Cunning. And in the heroic side, you got pretty solid units. Now you got some pretty nice early turn units like R2D2 and Sokatano being very good statted. Very nice effects at R2 being able to discard any card from your hand and then look at the top 3 and grab any others free among it and put the rest at the bottom of your deck in a random order. And then Ahsoka being a nice solid Force unit with good stats, like potentially gain Ambush, which is pretty nice, and be able to bounce yourself back as well if you want to, as long as you pay the cost. Then you got some good space units, like you've got the 2 Millennium Falcons being nice ones, with the lower costing one be able to come out, enter play ready, so you can attack straight away. But if you want to keep it on board while it's in play, you have to keep tapping a resource in your regroup phase to keep it on board, or wherever it bounces back to your hand, which could be a benefit. Because if it's taking damage, you can bounce it back to your hand, so you can play it out again. But if it hasn't, you can just tap a resource, so that way you can keep it on board and be able to keep using it over and over again. But for the higher cost Millennium Falcon, it can be smuggled in, so it can be smuggled in for the same cost it would normally be. But if you play it through the hand, it gains Ambush. You can either smuggle it out later, and it's a strong unit you can play out at any point in the game later on, or you can play it out from your hand and it can ambush a unit, and with a 6 cost 5/5 to the stats, it's pretty good. Then you got some higher costing units like Ephes Ness and Han Solo being nice ones, like Ephes Ness being able to come down, once again, Vader stats, 7 cost 5/7 is pretty good with Saboteur, and when it's played, or when it attacks, you can bounce back an opponent's non-leader unit that has less power than itself. So on the first one, it's going to be bouncing 4 when it's played, like anything that's got a power of 4 or less, because it's got to be less, not equal to. And then if you boost up again, then start swinging and bounce even bigger things, which is pretty cool. And then you got Han Solo, so a nice little card here. 7 cost 6/6, has Ambush, and has the shoot first mechanic, where when it attacks, it deals damage before the opposing unit does damage. So if you deal enough damage to defeat the unit that you're attacking into, he'll do damage first, that unit will be defeated and it won't do any damage back. It's pretty nice there. And you got some pretty nice events in the heroic side as well, being Spark Rebellion and Bamboozle, being like a nice bit of hand knowledge and like hand control with Spark Rebellion. And then Bamboozle will be able to exhaust the unit and bounce back all upgrades on it back to the hand. So if there are upgrades like shields and experience, they just vanish. And if it's ones they've played on it, it goes back to the hand and you rest that unit as well. And this is one that can be played for free, so not paying any resources if you want to by discarding a Cunning card from your hand instead of paying its resources, which is pretty cool. And you've also got the rare bases here being Jeddah City and Petraki Arena. Not great. Petraki Arena could make Yoda like stronger, make him a 5/9, which is alright. But Jeddah City is not a great one to pair with Yoda, to be honest. But it's up to you what you decide. And then for the non-heroic side of Cunning, we've got some pretty nice ones here. We've got some cheap units like Garrido and Cloud Rider being good stat, free 1 in terms of stats. Cloud Rider have an ambush, it can come and attack the same turn it's played, whereas Greedo just comes down very cheap at 1 cost, and then if it's defeated, you can mill the top card of your deck. If it's not a unit, which you can kind of set up with Yoda, then it's you kind of do you then well if it's not a unit, so an upgrade or an event, you can deal 2 damage to a ground unit, which is pretty nice. Then you got Fennec Shand here as well, who is a never like big costing card for the late game, 7 cost. But then it comes down with ambush, and when it attacks, it deals a damage to defender equal to like for 1 damage to defender for each different cost card among your discard pile. So for each, if you got multiple cards and a different cost, you can do a lot of damage. If you've got the same cost, it's gonna do less damage. You also got nice upgrades like Jetpack, adding like something you can smuggle out, having giving a nice bit of boost, and also giving a temporary shield, which allow you to either then trade units to then take out a unit plus then not taking any damage back because the shield's protecting you, or just make it so you're safe to then swing at your opponent's base. But remember that shield is temporary, so it will get in a turn, so you'll either lose it or use it. Then you got some really good events, like Cunning has some of the best events in the game. Like you got political pressure, be a nice 1-cost event that forces your opponent to either discard a random card from the hand or let you have 2 droid tokens. Now, droid tokens can either mean nothing and just have you tokens, or you can use exploit, because exploit is what exploit and coordinate are mainly for the dark side and the light side. There are some cards that aren't dark or light and just normal aspects that have that as well. So you can kind of potentially make use of that, or you can have it so you can have your exploit coordinate live on certain cards, which is cool. And because it's a random card, your opponent might not want to discard a card from the hand, or they might choose to. You might hit something that you don't want to lose from the hand as well. You got some nice events like Surprise Strike, allowing you to attack with a unit and be even stronger at 3 more power. You got Waylay, allowing to bounce any non-leader unit back to hand, and you got the new one. Now there are 2 of them, which could pair very well with Yoda, or if you have a certain aspects like Jedi and Force units, because if you control exactly just 1 unit, you can play from your hand a non-vehicle unit from your hand that shares the same trait as the unit you have in play, and it costs 5 less. If you have a Jedi on board, so you got like say you got a Ahsoka on board, you can play. Now there are 2 of them to choose the Force trait on Ahsoka and play out a Luke and only pay an extra 2 resources along with this card to play out a Luke for 5 rather than 7, which is really strong. So pretty cool combos with that, and it's a really good reason for running Cunning. Like Yoda can probably play very well in all these different aspects. All 4 aspects Yoda can play very well in. It's just what you prefer out the aspects and what the cards in each aspect have available. It's an option for you. Then we got the last little bit, and that's the cards that are just Heroism. So the Heroism cards, the ones that are just heroic, and there aren't many good options because in set 1, it's most of the heroic cards are, or just heroic cards are focused on assisting with Rebel, like assisting the Rebel trait. And since Yoda and a lot of the cards you want to play aren't really Rebels, and you haven't got a lot of Rebels, there's not much point in using a lot of them. And in set 2, they were less varied, like they're less specific for a certain kind of like trait or anything like that. So there's not many, like there are a few Wookiees and other stuff, not many to choose from that like a tech. And then for set 3, there are some pretty nice ones, but they're mainly like focused on the clone stuff, not the best. But out of the the just Heroism cards there are, these are the ones I feel are probably like the best for Yoda. And I forgot we could probably put R2D2 and C3PO, but yeah, like they could be useful, but then so you can kind of see what you're gonna get for Yoda, but then you're gonna just get it anyway. But you've got the Phase 2 Dark Clone Trooper, which is a 3-cost 3/2 in an ambush, pretty nice there. So a nice way to kind of ambush, take out opponent's unit, and then trigger Yoda. You also got Tech as well, being a 3-cost 2/5 that allows you make your resources into a second hand, because then it turns all your resources to having Smuggle, and the Smuggle cost is just 2 more than their actual cost, and the same aspects they have. You got the ATTE Vanguard, which is like a not so great Reinforcement Walker, because it's got the same stats and cost, so same cost and stats. Also can heal a bit damage from your base, but in terms of attacking, because restore 3, and has different. And the only other effect it's got is it creates 2 Clone Trooper tokens when it's defeated. So not too bad, but when you got Reinforcement Walker, it's good. But if you're not playing green, then this could be an option to have. And then You're My Only Hope, being a fantastic card to run Yoda, and probably my main takes away to want to play Yoda is Your Only Hope, because this is a great card that we had in set 1 that allows you to look at the top card of your deck, and you can play it, and it costs 5 less, and you can potentially play it for free if you only got 5 or less health remaining in your base. And then normally unless you had a way to kind of put the cards on the top of your deck, you're kind of just guessing and hoping you hit a good one. But with Yoda, you can kind of control what goes on top of your deck by using his effect on the leader side to when something's defeated or left the board on that turn. You can tap Yoda to kind of draw a card and put something on top of your deck ready for it, and then use You're My Only Hope to play it out cheaper. So a really good card, and one of the main takeaways for Yoda is probably going to be a staple in Yoda decks. Lastly, that brings it to the my preferred aspects, because like I've been trying to do for this new one, been trying to prove this series every time I do it for every set. And I remember there were comments about asking about what my preferred aspects were, and it'd be a good thing to put in. So I thought for this one I'd put it in and go over what my preferred aspects would be for each leader. And I put 2 out of the 4 combinations you can have, because sometimes it might be just one way, and it might be just one way I want to play a leader, but there might be multiple ways I want to play it. And with Yoda, since he can be played in every different aspect combination and still be good, there are a lot of ways. But my preferred ones are to play it with command, because you get nice things in like resupply to ramp out Yoda to come out quicker, so that way you can play him, deploy him quicker, and then throw on things like the General's Blade to make like things cheaper when he swings and increase his stats from being good to being amazing. And then having things like home ones, so you can spam at the board to bring out more units, like more things out for bigger and quicker. And then the other way I play it, if I wasn't playing command, would be aggression, because you can accidentally force throw is such a great card that you like. If you're playing a force leader, you normally want to try it out, and especially it's a good combination with blue, because you can do all the damage with red and then heal off any damage with blue, which is really good. And you got things like the new Stellar Guerrera being a way to search your removal events in blue, which is fantastic, and also things like Anakin for like a cheap. You can either have Poe, but if you want a force unit, then you got Anakin Skywalker as that option as well. So very nice there. So these are my preferred aspects. You can still play in yellow or blue, but these are ones I prefer to try out first or play first because of the benefits in those of cards in those aspects. And then that's basically just going to bring it to the end, because that is the end of the video. Hopefully that's helped you understand how to build Yoda and how to build it to suit you and your playstyle and all the options available. Also going over at the beginning all the different details about like the leader, the base options, and also ratios and also the aspects, so you can have a clear understanding of how Yoda's functions, how you might want to build it, what you prefer, and if it relates over, to make sure you can build it as best as possible for you. Because you don't want to go net decking and then potentially not like a list or not the options. It's best to kind of work on it yourself and improve your skills as well in playing this game. So thank you for watching. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and drop down any comments below that you have to either improve this or any advice. It'd be greatly appreciated. And catch you in the next one when we start going over the command leaders next. Bye for now.